didn't you?
Yes. At the time, I really didn't care what my name was. I was going to record, and that thrilled me.
You grew up as Brenda, didn't you?
Yes.
A shocking update has just emerged surrounding country music legend Crystal Gayle, and fans across the world are holding their breath. Known for her angelic voice and iconic floor-length hair, Gayle has always kept her private life out of the spotlight, but not anymore. In a stunning reveal, the beloved singer has come forward with deeply personal news that no one saw coming. From her early days rising under the shadow of her famous sister, Loretta Lynn, to her own Grammy-winning success, Crystal's journey has been filled with grace, resilience, and quiet power. But this new revelation changes everything about her career, her health, and her legacy. What could Crystal Gayle possibly have to announce after all these years? Fans who grew up on "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue" are now glued to their screens, waiting for her to explain what's really going on. To understand the weight of Crystal Gayle's announcement, you first have to understand the world she came from. Born Brenda Gayle Webb in Paintsville, Kentucky, she was the youngest of 8 children in a struggling coal mining family. Her older sister, Loretta Lynn, was already on her way to country superstardom when Crystal was still a teenager. It was Loretta who encouraged her to pursue music, but also warned her that the road would not be easy. Determined to create her own identity, Crystal changed her name and her sound, blending country roots with a silky pop style that soon took Nashville by storm. By the late 1970s, she became one of the most recognizable voices in the world, topping charts with "Talking in Your Sleep" and "Half the Way." Her shimmering hair and smooth vocals symbolized elegance and strength in an era dominated by twang and grit. Yet, even during her fame, Crystal avoided controversy, keeping her family close and her struggles private. But now, decades later, she has decided to break her silence about something deeply personal, a decision that has shaken the country music world. In a heartfelt interview, Gayle revealed that her family's health history has been haunting her for years. With Loretta's passing still fresh in fans' memories and the loss of her brother Herman Webb before that, Crystal admits that she has quietly battled fears of hereditary illness and has recently undergone serious medical testing. "I've always believed in hope," she said, "but this time I needed to face the truth." Fans who have followed her gentle persona were stunned. This was not the soft-spoken Crystal they were used to. This was a woman confronting her mortality and legacy head-on. Crystal Gayle's confession about her health wasn't the only thing that caught fans off guard. It was the depth of her vulnerability. For decades, Gayle was known as the unshakable voice of elegance in country music. Her image was flawless, her tone soothing, and her presence serene. But now she was admitting that behind that picture of calm, she had been fighting battles no one could see. Her doctors had recently discovered a hereditary neurological issue that might have explained years of dizzy spells and sudden fatigue during tours. She revealed that she sometimes had to hold onto stage props to keep her balance during performances, fearing that any sign of weakness would end her career. "I didn't want pity," she said softly. "I just wanted to sing." The revelation shocked audiences who had seen her perform effortlessly well into her 70s. She never canceled a show, never let the public see her struggle. But as she spoke, her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from release. In that moment, Crystal Gayle wasn't the star with hair that brushed the floor. She was a woman confronting time, legacy, and the fragility of life. She recalled the loss of Loretta Lynn, her sister and mentor, saying, "Loretta told me before she passed, don't hide from the truth. Fans love you for who you are, not for the image you think you have to be." That advice lingered, becoming the seed of her decision to go public. For Gayle, the announcement wasn't a farewell, it was a reckoning. "I've been given this gift of voice," she told fans, "and I've used it to bring comfort to others. Now, I have to let it comfort me." As her words spread across social media, fellow artists like Reba McEntire and Dolly Parton posted messages of love and admiration. "Crystal is one of the strongest women I know," Dolly wrote. "She's family to us all." Fans began flooding comment sections with tributes, sharing how her music had carried them through heartbreak and hope alike. Yet, amid the outpouring of love, whispers began to spread. Was Crystal retiring for good? Would her health force her into silence? After more than 5 decades of music, the uncertainty only deepened when her team released a cryptic message. A final curtain call may be closer than we think. Those words left fans heartbroken, anxious, and desperate for answers. As news of Crystal Gayle's possible retirement spread, speculation reached a fever pitch. Fans and journalists alike began revisiting her long and storied career, looking for clues that might have hinted at this moment. Some pointed to her emotional performance at the Grand Ole Opry just months earlier, where she broke down in tears during "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue." Others remembered how she'd canceled a handful of small-town shows, citing exhaustion, something she had never done before. But what no one realized was that Crystal had already been quietly preparing for the transition. In interviews, she spoke fondly of her grandchildren and hinted at wanting to spend more time at home in Nashville. Behind the scenes, she was recording what she described as a deeply personal collection of songs, inspired by her journey, her family, and her faith. Sources close to her reveal that the project was recorded mostly in her home studio, with only a handful of musicians, capturing the raw honesty that made her early music so beloved. Yet, there's more to the story. Reports began to circulate that Gayle had recently visited the old Webb family home in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, the same house that inspired Loretta Lynn's famous Coal Miner's Daughter. Locals say Crystal was seen walking through the dusty rooms, looking at family photos, and quietly talking to neighbors who remembered her childhood. Those who were there say she appeared emotional, even tearful, as if saying goodbye to something much larger than a home. It felt like she was closing a chapter, one resident said. When asked about the visit, Crystal later explained, "I just needed to reconnect with where it all began. Sometimes you have to look back before you can move forward." Her words only fueled speculation that the personal collection she mentioned might actually be her final studio album, a farewell letter to her fans and to the Kentucky hills that raised her. Social media exploded with tributes, with many calling her visit a pilgrimage to her roots. It became clear that if this was truly her last project, she intended it to be meaningful, raw, and spiritual. For Gayle, it wasn't about fame anymore, it was about peace, closure, and gratitude for the life music had given her. By the time Crystal Gayle's story reached major outlets, something extraordinary was happening. Fans, old and new, united in a wave of emotion that spread across the country music world. Younger audiences who had only known her name from old records suddenly found themselves drawn into her story. Streams of her timeless hits like "Ready for the Times to Get Better" and "I'll Get Over You" began surging across digital platforms, and country radio revived her classic catalog. For many, this wasn't just nostalgia, it was rediscovery. People realized how much Gayle had contributed to shaping modern country music's sound with her elegant crossover appeal. As the spotlight returned, Crystal responded with grace. She posted a heartfelt message online. "I never thought I'd see this kind of love again. Thank you for reminding me why I sang in the first place." But behind the gratitude, those close to her said she was reflective, almost wistful. Late at night, she would revisit the old demo tapes stored in her Nashville home, some dating back to her earliest sessions at Decca Records. These tapes, long forgotten, held songs she'd written but never released, songs she felt were too personal or painful for the public. Now, as she prepared what many believed to be her final album, she was listening again. One of those tapes, insiders revealed, contained a never-before-heard duet, recorded with her late sister, Loretta Lynn. The discovery stunned everyone. The track had been shelved for decades after a dispute between record labels, but Crystal recently secured the rights to finally release it. "When she played it for us," one producer said, "we all went silent. It was like Loretta was in the room again." The song reportedly features Loretta's unmistakable twang blending with Crystal's smooth harmonies, a haunting reminder of two sisters who defined generations. Crystal was said to have wept while remastering the track, whispering, "It feels like we're singing together one last time." As word leaked, fans flooded social media with excitement and sorrow. Radio hosts called it the most important release in country music in decades. But for Crystal, this project was not about fame or charts. "This is closure," she told her team. "This is family." Her upcoming album, rumored to be titled Echoes of Home, became one of the most anticipated releases in recent memory. Yet, with that excitement, came a quiet fear. If this was truly her final album, then the curtain was slowly falling on an era defined by grace, sisterhood, and a voice that could melt hearts with a single note. As anticipation for Crystal Gayle's final album built to a fever pitch, whispers began circulating that she was preparing one last televised appearance to perform the new duet with Loretta Lynn's posthumous vocals. The announcement sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. For decades, the sisters' bond had been one of country music's most cherished relationships, a story of love, rivalry, and legacy that defined generations of fans. When Crystal finally confirmed the rumors, she called it a moment to honor not just Loretta, but every woman who came from nothing and sang her truth. The special was to be filmed at the historic Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, where both sisters had performed countless times before. Insiders said Crystal insisted the set remain simple: one spotlight, one stool, and a single microphone wrapped in white lace from Loretta's personal collection. "I don't want grandeur," she told producers. "I want heart." On the night of the taping, the Ryman was filled with an energy that felt almost spiritual. As Crystal stepped onto the stage, dressed in an elegant sapphire gown, the audience rose in applause that seemed to stretch into eternity. Then, as the opening chords began, Loretta's voice echoed through the hall, soft, raw, and full of soul. Crystal closed her eyes and joined in, her tone trembling with emotion. Many in the audience wept openly. Backstage, even seasoned musicians said they'd never witnessed anything like it. When the song ended, Crystal whispered, "For you, Loretta," and the room erupted into a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. The footage was later aired nationwide, and within hours it went viral. Fans called it the most beautiful goodbye in country history. But what touched viewers most wasn't just the music. It was the honesty in Crystal's voice, the vulnerability of a woman who had seen joy, pain, and loss, yet still sang with hope. After the performance, she gave a short, tearful interview saying, "Loretta taught me that a song isn't about perfection, it's about truth. And this, tonight, was my truth." Social media exploded with tributes, and celebrities across genres, from Casey Musgraves to Carrie Underwood, praised her for her courage and grace. For a moment, the whole world seemed to pause, united in nostalgia and admiration. Crystal Gayle had done the impossible. She had turned farewell into art, pain into peace, and memory into melody. In the wake of her hauntingly beautiful Ryman Auditorium performance, Crystal Gayle's world entered a new chapter, one defined not by fame or spotlight, but by reflection and legacy. The performance had broken records online, amassing millions of views and sparking emotional reactions from around the world. People from every generation shared stories about how her songs had shaped their lives, how her calm voice had helped them through heartbreak and loss. But while fans celebrated, Crystal herself retreated from public view. Those closest to her say she began spending long afternoons in her Nashville home, surrounded by memories, scrapbooks filled with family photos, handwritten lyrics, and old tour jackets from the 1970s. "She doesn't talk much about music now," one friend said. "She talks about meaning." Crystal had always been private, but now she was ready to let the world in one last time. Rumors began swirling that she was quietly producing a tell-all documentary, something deeply personal and unlike anything she'd ever done before. Insiders confirmed the project was real, titled More Than My Brown Eyes, a name inspired by her most famous hit, but meant to signify what lay beneath the image the world had known. The film reportedly dives into her struggles with identity, pressure, and living in the shadow of Loretta Lynn while trying to honor her own individuality. Early viewers of the project described it as honest to the bone, showcasing rare home footage of her family and even moments where she breaks down while recalling her late sister's passing. In one clip, Crystal is seen visiting Loretta's old ranch, walking alone through the quiet halls, whispering, "You taught me everything I know, but you never told me how to say goodbye." Another moment shows her reflecting on the challenges of fame. People think music heals you. Sometimes it hurts just as deeply as it heals. Her voice cracks as she admits that she spent years hiding her pain behind her perfect smile and immaculate hair. The documentary, she explained, wasn't meant to glorify her. It was meant to show the truth behind the glamour, the fragility behind the fame. As the trailer circulated online, fans were stunned by its intimacy. The tagline read simply, "Before the curtain falls, she tells it all." Within hours, hashtags like "Thank you, Crystal" and "More Than My Brown Eyes" began trending worldwide. Artists from every corner of the music industry expressed admiration for her courage. It became clear that this wasn't just another celebrity documentary. It was a living legacy, a love letter, and a confession all at once. And as fans waited for its release, one question lingered in the air. Was this truly Crystal Gayle's goodbye to the world? Or was there one last message still to come? When the trailer for More Than My Brown Eyes finally dropped, the world stopped. The opening shot showed a faded photograph of a young Crystal Gayle sitting on a wooden porch in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, holding a guitar too big for her small hands. As her soft voice narrated, "This is where it all began," fans felt an ache in their hearts. The film, scheduled for limited release, was already being hailed as one of the most emotional country music documentaries ever made. But what made it truly extraordinary wasn't just the music, it was the truth. Gayle opened up about the fears, the losses, and the silent battles that shaped her life. She revealed that there were years she almost walked away from the industry entirely, feeling trapped under the shadow of her sister's fame and the burden of perfection. People saw the long hair, the dresses, the smile, she said in one scene. But inside, I was just Brenda from Butcher Hollow trying to figure out who I was without a microphone. Her honesty resonated with millions. She spoke candidly about the pressure to maintain her image, the heartbreak of watching loved ones pass, and the quiet strength it took to keep singing even when her body begged her to stop. In one powerful sequence, she stood alone on the stage of an empty Grand Ole Opry, whispering into the microphone, "I hope I made you proud, Mama." The camera lingered on her tearful face as she sang an a cappella version of "When I Dream," her voice trembling but still beautiful, proving that even decades later, her gift remained untouched by time. Critics who previewed the film described it as a masterpiece of vulnerability, calling it the perfect closing chapter to an unmatched career. But just when fans thought they knew what to expect, Crystal surprised everyone once again. At the end of the documentary, a message appeared on the screen: "This is not the end. The music still has something left to say." That cryptic line sent the internet into a frenzy. What did it mean? Was Crystal hinting at another project? Or had she recorded something the world hadn't yet heard? Days later, her team confirmed that Gayle had one final studio recording ready for release. A song titled "The Last Melody," written by Crystal herself and recorded in one take. The song was said to capture the essence of everything she'd lived through: love, loss, and faith. Insiders described it as hauntingly beautiful, a track that felt both like a farewell and a blessing. Fans waited with trembling anticipation, knowing that when the last melody dropped, it would be more than just a song. It would be Crystal Gayle's final gift to the world. When Crystal Gayle's final song, "The Last Melody," was released, the world fell silent. The track opened with a soft piano progression and the faint hum of wind chimes recorded from her childhood porch in Butcher Hollow. Her voice entered gently, aged yet pure, carrying decades of emotion in every word. "I've sung my songs through joy and pain," she whispered in the first line, "but every note still knows your name." The lyrics were a heartfelt reflection on family, legacy, and the fleeting beauty of time. As the chorus swelled, listeners could almost feel her bidding farewell to both her sister Loretta and the millions of fans who had carried her career for over half a century. "If I don't sing again tomorrow," she sang, "let this be the song that stays." Within hours, the song dominated every major chart, not because of hype, but because of love. It wasn't just a song. It was a farewell letter in melody. Fans around the globe flooded social media with messages of gratitude and heartbreak. "You can feel her soul in every second." One comment read, "This is how legends say goodbye." Music critics described it as a hymn for anyone who's ever had to let go. What struck everyone most was that Crystal never tried to make it sound perfect. Her voice cracked, trembled, and carried the kind of truth that only comes when there's nothing left to prove. The music video, released days later, deepened the emotional impact. It opened with real home footage of Crystal walking barefoot through a meadow behind her Nashville home, wearing a simple white dress. The camera followed her as she placed a framed picture of her and Loretta beneath a tree, then sat down to strum her guitar. As she sang the final verse, she looked up toward the sky and smiled. The screen faded to black, with one final line written in her handwriting, "The song ends, but love doesn't." That single sentence became a movement. Fans began posting it everywhere, on shirts, murals, and even tattoos. Across Nashville, tributes poured in from every corner of the industry. Dolly Parton called the song the most beautiful farewell I've ever heard. Reba McEntire said, "Crystal didn't just make music, she made peace." Country stations replayed her classics for days, turning the airwaves into a celebration of her life and artistry. Then, in a final public statement released through her team, Gayle confirmed what many had feared. The last melody would indeed be her final recording. She was officially retiring from music to spend the rest of her life with her family and grandchildren. "I've had my share of standing ovations," she wrote. "Now I want to spend my nights under the stars with the people who make me laugh. That's my encore." The world reacted with a bittersweet mixture of sorrow and gratitude. Even as her career came to a close, Crystal Gayle had given one last reminder of what true artistry means: humility, honesty, and grace. In her silence, there was serenity. In her goodbye, there was love. And as the final notes of the last melody echoed across radios and living rooms around the world, fans felt an unmistakable peace, as though an era had quietly come full circle. Crystal Gayle had sung her final song, not to leave the stage, but to leave her heart forever in the music.